The day I vanished and finally became me. You never expect that the same person who once held you under moonlit sheets, who whispered into the silence of night, "I can't imagine my life without you," would one day look you dead in the eye and say, "I wish you'd just disappear." But that's exactly what happened to me. Her name was Isabel, and for the better part of a decade I believed she was my person, my future, my forever. We weren't perfect, of course. No couple is. We had our disagreements, the kind that start with stubborn pride and end with silent standoffs, but I always believed there was still love underneath it all. Foundation. Bond. I thought we were just in a rough patch. But I was wrong. Love doesn't always end in fire and screaming. Sometimes it dies in whispers, in the quiet erosion of everyday moments. The final days of our marriage didn't explode. They decayed. It began with small things. Easy to dismiss at first. I'd come home from work, worn out and hoping for a smile, maybe a hug, or even just a asterisk. "Hey, how was your day?" But Isabel barely looked up from her phone. Dinner, once our shared evening ritual. Jazz playing low, a bottle of red open, laughter about nothing, became a cold transaction. Some nights, she ate before I even walked through the door. Other nights, she didn't eat at all. When we did sit together, our conversations felt institutional, mechanical, like two people stuck in an elevator making forced small talk. Kept trying. I brought her the chocolate croissants she loved from the cafe on Green Street. I handled her car's maintenance without being asked. I left hopeful little notes on the bathroom mirror that said things like, "You're beautiful," or "We'll be okay." She didn't thank me. Didn't even blink. Just crumpled the notes like they were junk mail. At night, she turned her back in bed. Not out of sleepiness, but as if the thought of me touching her made her skin crawl. I'd reach out sometimes just to graze her arm to feel something human, but she'd flinch or pull the blanket tighter. He didn't cheat. There was no other man. Just an invisible barrier between us, built brick by cold brick. Then came the moment everything changed. I found her on the couch, absorbed in her laptop. I sat down beside her, careful, like approaching a wounded animal. "Hey," I said softly, "Are we okay?" She sighed without looking up. "I'm tired, Ben. I don't want to have this conversation again." I tried again, told her I missed us, that it felt like we were living in separate worlds under the same roof. She finally shut the laptop and met my eyes. And in that second I saw it, complete absence. No warmth. No regret. Just a woman who was already gone. "I feel suffocated," she said. "You're always so emotional, always needing something from me. I just want space. Can you do that? Can you give me space for once? I just don't want to feel like a stranger in my own marriage," I replied, my voice quieter than I expected. She stood up, walked to the kitchen, and without looking back, muttered under her breath, "God, I wish you'd just disappear." She didn't shout. She didn't throw anything. She said it calmly, casually, like ending a contract, and I just sat there, frozen. The woman I had loved, supported, trusted for 7 years, just told me to vanish, like I was an annoyance she could no longer tolerate. I didn't yell. I didn't cry. I stood, walked to our bedroom, opened the closet and began to pack. No music playing, no dramatic storm outside. Just the sound of hangers clinking and drawers sliding shut. I filled 2 duffel bags and left the rest. Not out of generosity, but because I couldn't bear to carry anything that reminded me of what we had become. At 1:14 a.m., I walked out the front door with my wallet, phone and keys. She never came after me. No messages. No apology. Nothing. She told me to disappear, and I finally listened. I drove aimlessly through the night, no destination in mind. When the sun rose, I stopped at a rest stop, napped in the car, then drove another 5 hours to my brother's place. I told him I needed a few days. He didn't pry. Just handed me a spare key, a blanket, and pointed to the couch. For the next week, I wandered around that unfamiliar town like a ghost. Cheap coffee in hand, eyes scanning the sky. I kept asking myself how someone who once kissed you goodnight could now act like you were dead weight. Isabel didn't call, didn't text. I guess she assumed I'd come crawling back, tail between my legs. But I didn't. I rented a room in a quiet suburb. Nothing fancy. Shared kitchen, paper-thin walls. I picked up freelance gigs, odd jobs. Changed my number. Cut off mutual friends. Moved like a shadow. I became a man without a past, and strangely, that saved me. I later heard that Isabel told people I'd abandoned her. That I just walked out unprovoked. With her. I had no interest in explaining myself to people who didn't really care. I had already spent years trying to prove my worth to someone who stopped noticing. My silence was not weakness. It was liberation. I relocated to Austin. Rented a studio above a mechanic shop. The fridge rattled, the paint peeled. But it was mine. It was quiet. And for the first time in years, I wasn't begging for love. I had peace. The healing wasn't instant. I worked delivery routes, lifted boxes in warehouses, took every freelance tech gig I could. I wore the same clothes, ate canned beans and rice, slept on a mattress on the floor. But I felt alive. Free from the emotional landmines, from the constant fear of doing or saying the wrong thing. One morning, I looked into the cracked bathroom mirror and didn't recognize the man staring back. Gruffy. Hello. But alive. I told him, we're not just surviving anymore. We're evolving. That's when everything shifted. I joined a no-frills gym. Started running before sunrise. Read books on discipline, self-worth and healing. Cut out alcohol. Got a real bed. Invested in therapy. I wanted to be better, not to win someone back, but so I'd never betray myself again. Within a year, I had a steady UX design job. I furnished the apartment. Bought a used car. I stopped chasing love, and started building self-respect. People noticed. Women noticed. But I wasn't looking for validation anymore. And I never once contacted Isabel. No text. No curiosity. No lurking online. She told me to disappear, and I honored her wish. But she never realized what she set in motion. I wasn't hiding. I was rebuilding. By the end of the second year, my side business, helping local brands with web and visual identity, had grown. Quietly. Steadily. I lived below my means. Invested in my skills. And I transformed body, mind, and spirit. By year 3, I moved into a 2-bedroom apartment with a skyline view. No TV. Just tea, books, and silence. The kind of silence that doesn't sting but soothes. It's been 5 years now. 5 years since the night Isabel asked me to vanish. I think she expected I'd return one day, battered and broken, begging her to take me back. Maybe in her story she was the victim and I was the man who walked out. But I didn't need to correct the narrative. 'Cause I outgrew it. I don't hate her. Truth be told, I'm grateful. Her rejection pushed me to meet the man I was meant to become. And the man I am today doesn't beg. He builds. He doesn't chase people. He commands peace. And he never needed to be found. Because he was never lost. Just finally free.